Hello and welcome along to the Zwift WER Chop Race. Tonight we have Pat Shaw, who knows this race very well. Welcome along, Pat.
Thanks, Wes, man. It's good to see you again, and it's great to be back to Innisbrook after the Tuesday night E-Crit. What an amazing display the A-graders put on there in the Zwift E-Crit on Tuesday night, and we'll see whether D-grade can just get that little bit quicker around the course tonight and survive for a victory.
And we are on the Innsbruck course tonight as well. That nice little steep kicker in it that's going to bust up the groups a little bit. They're going to have to sort of work together, manage each other to stay together and work together to be a unit. So 27K in length. And we have D-grade who have already started with Pete Donahue leading them. And also there's someone else in there as well tonight that you know well, Pat.
Well, there's a fair few of our favourites out there, but we'll get to them later on in the event. Tonight, you're following the D-graders. I'm going to stick with the A-graders. No Jesper tonight, so we'll take the bookends of the race. Pete Donahue, big shout out for the T-shirt, mate. Thank you. Appreciate that. We spoke about the freebies last week. Where's man? We got another one in the mail, so shout out to Pete this week. Good luck to the D-graders.
Yeah, and it is a nice size groups there. We've got Pat as well. So in there also we've got Peter Westbrook as well from Tasmania. So we've got a nice lot of riders in here amongst the Ds and Bs. And also Kim Little is in there from the As in your group there, Pat. So Kim Little is a very strong rider, certainly well known in the Zwift community well, Pat. Obviously, probably Cam Roberts is going to be in there. I haven't seen whether he's in there amongst it tonight or not.
Yeah, there's a bit of chit-chat already on the start line, but A-grade still over 8 minutes from starting the chase. And with D-grade already been out there for about 4 minutes, we'll see C-grade set off in about 3 minutes' time. And there's going to be a very interesting one tonight. A-grade got it a little bit wrong last week, and Jesper got into them a bit because he was following the A-graders. But I think this week they'll be better tuned and more ready for tonight's race. I think Kim Little has to be one of the favourites. He's always so strong, and he's very dedicated to the chase each week. So it'll be interesting to see who can get up tonight. Obviously, each week in the chop, the handicap times and gaps between each bunch do change. So there's been a bit of adjustment to those from the previous week's race. And also we're back to wearing the jerseys. So each group will have a different jersey. So if you are watching the stream, you will see the different jerseys per grade, which will help you decipher when the grades come together, who's who.
And it looks like Tony Bagshaw out on course we're crossing over to now is leading that D-grade group. He's rallied up the troops. Not a huge amount of numbers there for D-grade tonight. But nonetheless, I'm sure Tony will make sure that he makes use of those numbers by keeping it nice and smooth, giving those directions and making sure they stay together as a unit. I guess the biggest challenge on this course, Pat, is definitely that climb, trying to keep that power up to that threshold, but without stretching it too far and sort of snapping people's legs. I think you did call this course the leg snapper. It certainly has that effect coming up over that climb. So that's the biggest thing. After you get over that climb too, on the downhill, you can lose a lot of time too if you let off too much on the downhill because you need to keep the pressure on once you get over the climb just as much as you need to keep things smooth on the way up it. So I reckon this group here now will be all making sure that they are doing it. It looks like they're all rolling through quite smoothly here. And I know that last time we watched, when we commentated on the chop, the power-ups were being demanded to be used in the last part of the race by Tony Bagshaw and was saying if you have an aero power-up, now is the time to use it. So also a bit of tactics in there from the captain of Tony Bagshaw.
Yeah, well, if we remember back to last week, for those who didn't get to see it, D-grade were in the lead until just a few kilometres to go. Then C and D came together, and right on the line, B-grade almost made the junction as well as A-grade from behind, but it was C-grade that survived, and it was actually a couple of young Taswegians that you could probably refer to back home in your homeland. Let's call it Wes, but they were really good, the young guys from over there, and I'll keep an eye out for them in C grade tonight if they are in the field. I'm trying to remember the names. I should have written them down.
Zach was certainly a very strong rider from the Wolfpack crew, so Also, we had obviously Cameron Roberts in there amongst it. We see these riders here working quite smoothly together here. Tony's leading through on the front here now. So sitting at that nice, it looks like 2.7 watts per kilo, hovering around the 2.5. So they're within their range of what they should be under their I guess, grading and category. So, and looks like Tony's sitting that 140 heart rate. He's got plenty to wiggle with there. And the cadence seems to be nice and above that 80 mark. Because I guess, Pat, as well, being a coach like yourself and coaching actually the Zwift Australian champion, you probably would talk to your riders a little bit about cadence and about keeping that on top of that, especially not just on the climbs, but also on the flats. So because obviously if you're starting to go below that 80 range, you're starting to work the muscles more.
Yeah, certainly, and particularly in this type of race, higher cadence is going to give you that better legs at the finish. But on Zwift as well, particularly when you're heading into a climb, higher cadence will allow you to hold a higher power for a bit longer and maintain that. So it's a good technique. It's just been a minute now. C-grade rolled out a minute ago, Wes. So they've got a decent-sized group, and I think that was what sort of worked to their strength last week, was how many riders they had. They worked really well. And they used their power-ups. You spoke about Tony Bagshaw saying to his group in D-grade last week to use their power-ups so they wouldn't survive. There was no need to ask the C-graders last week. Ben Gove had them well drilled. They used the power-ups perfectly, even in the early laps, so not just for their own benefit, but to benefit the whole group. And I think we'll see that again this week. B grade will roll out very shortly as well and start their chase, and then it'll just be the A graders who we have left back here, and I'll follow them all the way tonight and kind of hoping that we get up. Actually, I know that I took ownership of the C graders this week, but who will it be? Will it be your D graders, or can the A graders finally get up?
It has to be. Tony Bagshaw has driven this ship of the D graders for a long time. I want to see Tony get up to the win, or if not, another D-grader. Also, just looking across on the stream now as well, we've got Lukey Gilmore has tuned in. So welcome along, Luke. He's a big fan of Zwift early mornings. Gets out and gets it done before the family's awake. And Pete Donahue is in there saying D, go down the watts a little bit. So looks like he wants to keep everything in shape up this hill. Looks like Tony's actually taking the lead here and setting a pace. No one to go above that, and they've got a little bit of a gap back between that 1 second gap. So Tony's sort of setting the tempo here. He's at that 160 heart rate here now, 360 watts, and he's in a low cadence here, Pat. 61 RPM. That's down in the strength endurance range. So he's really grinding it up this climb here.
Yeah, but we do see that a lot on this Innisbrook climb that we've nicknamed the leg snapper, Wes, that low cadence is prevalent amongst all racing, not just in the DC groups, but also in the B&As. They'll use that lower cadence to try and just drive it over. I think that's mainly to keep the heart rate down a little bit. Obviously, the lower your cadence, the less cardio you use, but the more muscular system. So that's why that higher cadence, although it is going to push that heart rate a bit higher, it's a lot more manageable over a period of time. So we'll just wait until we see A grade go around their turn on the leg snapper. But certainly Tony has the experience, as you mentioned, and he does know the advice to give his group. But maybe just not quite enough riders in D grade tonight.
Yeah, and it looks like actually Tony set that pace probably a little bit too high almost there, and has actually got a little bit of a gap on the group here. So a bit of a discohesion there as well from the group there with Tony. It's lighter in numbers as well, so obviously that has an impact and makes it a little bit more difficult. But Tony there is going to have to, pretty much wait for his riders, because he's not going to be too strong with just a two-man sort of group here. But we will see the race unfold with the other groups about to head off as well. And looks like that is that B grade heading off there now.
Yes, they've headed out. We've got 40 seconds until 40 seconds until A grade set off, Wes, and we've got some favourites from last week tuning in. Rowan Dever has just come in. There's a bit of chat on the start line here. A couple of people are saying, "Oh, Pat, you're in for the race." Well, no, I don't. Not quite yet. Just got back on the bike, but I might do a chop in a couple of weeks' time. We'll see how the fitness comes along. You know the story, Wes. Once you've been fully fit before, even half fit is just excruciating.
It is in that sort of format as well. Usually it's quite a hard start. Everyone's sort of trying to go out above that threshold almost for the first part, the heart's in the mouth. But yeah, we're getting some other banter across from Jeffrey Keel, the South African champion as well, saying that he actually took the win last week. A-grade took the win. So he's got his money on you, Pat. Also, John Mayfield, who's the actual guy behind Zwift, has actually joined in the stream. So welcome along, John, if you're watching. He says it's a pretty cool format, this ride. And that is the best thing about this ride, Pat. It is very inclusive in terms of racing aspect. Anyone can win no matter your ability and level. So explain that in simple terms of how the format and that works of this race for someone who's joined the stream and is not quite aware of what's happening here.
Okay, so, well, basically for the power that you can average over 20 minutes, you'll divide that into your body weight, which will give you your average watts per kilo over that period of time. And that will give you an indication of your functional threshold power. And then that decides the grade that you're in. So in D grade, they're averaging, I think it's between 1.2 and 2.4. And then it's 2.4 to around 3 to 4, and then 4.5 plus is A grade. So the different groups basically measured by their ability to produce speed and power. So we've seen the A grade pop out of the blocks, whereas they were hitting like 600, 700 watts straight out of the blocks. And for many of the front bunches, including the Bs, that would almost be a full-on sprint for the finish. So a very fast start for A grade, but it hasn't really worked to their favour because a couple of riders already split off. And unfortunately, not a huge group in A grade tonight. So they'll need to be very mindful of that.
Yes, and again, like this comes back to, yes, A grade may be the strongest group, but if the cohesion isn't there and they're not working together, then the likes of the other grades that are like in C grade or even D grade, if they're working together strongly, then you have more of a chance. So that's where it comes back to, again, like the ride captain in each group does have a really important role to play because that can make a huge impact if you're being misled or not being misled. You don't have the instructions from your ride leader to make sure that you are working together and that group is staying at a nice close unit. So Tony's group here is a bit smaller than we'd usually see it, but he's trying to make use of those riders and stretch them along here. It looks like there's a few gaps almost creating there with Tony and the other pacer up there with him. So it looks like Jones as well back behind him there. So this is a difficult one for the D grade group tonight. They don't quite have the numbers. That they haven't quite nailed the amount of numbers that they've had in the past. So obviously Tony's going to have his work cut out here of making full use of all the riders here tonight. And again, Pat, we do come back to the style effect. Some of these riders here opting for some nice deep dish wheels because it is quite a fast circuit. So it does make an impact as well what sort of equipment you are running as well tonight. So the riders aren't auto-assigned bikes tonight. So there's different bikes in there, and that does have different advantage to where your avatar sits in terms of ranking. So you have to unlock parts of the game to and ride more often to get faster in games. So that's another challenge there. Well, we can see some Zwift bikes in there. So we can see the standard Zwift bike there on the right-hand side, and then this one we can see in the middle here with the black and yellow. That's the Aero Zwift bike. So obviously being Aero, it is a little bit faster in game. So you have those encouragements to ride more often than to unlock different parts of the game. And that could be jerseys, bikes, equipment, zip wheels, as we can see here. A lot of people opting for those zip wheels. Pat, what do you currently have your avatar set up as?
Well, I'm lucky enough to be on the Propel disc, the giant Propel disc in my own yellow and black color in the decals. You get to choose your color of bike too. So for those that are new or haven't been on Zwift before, these are the exciting in-game features that you get, which add on to the encouragement factor, I suppose. It spurs you on to ride more often, as you said. And as you level up, you gain accessories, helmets, glasses, gloves, apparel, and equipment for your bike. The zip wheels come pretty early on, Wes, and I think that's why we probably see them pretty busy in the group. Plus, aesthetically, they look pretty nice on the bike as well. But there's plenty of different things you can unlock. One of the most, one of the biggest unlocks was level 12 on Zwift, so you can unlock the Alp to Zwift climb, and many still unlocking that now and staying to challenge that climb. But for this chop race, we've got an incredible group in A grade at the moment. Whereas I'd say I didn't get to follow them last week nor the week before, but certainly there seems to be some eagerness about the group. They've already, in just 4 kilometres, taken almost a minute out of the B grade group. So although they came out of the box really hard, they have got together. It's the usual suspects. Zach Johnson, we spoke about him earlier, from Tasmania, from the Wolfpack crew. Miller, who was really strong last week. Kim Little, you mentioned, also at the top of the stream. Riley in there again, the rider from GPM Stills in the NRS. And there's also a few other riders. Dever is now caught up. He had a bit of a lag at the start, but this is a really solid group, 21 riders.
21 riders strong, and all those names you've reeled off there as well are names that we see each throughout the race, not just the chop, but also the E-Crit. And even if you have a look along at some of the other KISS down under races, you'll see these familiar names. And if you're across Zwift Power, you can certainly have a little bit of click on some of these bios and profiles and see how many races some of these guys are doing throughout the week. So they are getting a lot of high intensity workouts, Pat. And obviously that's crossing over to their other achievements out on the open road. So I know Zach, also from the Wolfpack Taz, is Zach Johnson, has been going to some of the NRS races lately and talking to some of the other guys from Tassie. He's been there and amongst it. He's quite a young rider, only 17 years of age, but hasn't taken on that aggressiveness of the attack. A couple of times he was in a position to the other week in another NRS race, but didn't quite take it on. But hopefully this racing on Zwift, how he raced on the E-Crit the other night, on Tuesday night, an average 5.4 watts a kilo for that race. So, he's certainly got an engine there, and I hope that he can take that up at the next NRS race and really give himself just as much of a workout as he does on Zwift here as well. So we're getting a couple other comments now across the on the Facebook as well. So the John saying the Cervelo S5 with 808s is tough to beat for him. Of course, the concept bike. So he's talking about the Tron bike there as well. We've seen a few of those glowing bikes on there as well. There's a fair bit of a work gone into unlocking those, Pat, isn't there? So how does that actually work? Can you explain to me what I have to do to have one of those glowing bikes?
I think the Tron bike's level 30, isn't it, Wes? And I'm not even there myself yet. I'm at level 23. My father is out in the shop riding at the moment. He rides 5 nights a week on Zwift after the store closes. He's up to level 25, so he's getting close. So I'm pretty certain the Tron bike.
25 is a top level at the moment, and soon to be. I think there's going to be some other advancements past that. So stay tuned for that one. But yes, it's 50,000 vertical meters climbing to unlock that bike. So it's definitely an investment with the legs to unlock that bike, but it is the fastest in game. And certainly the people that have unlocked it aren't afraid to use it because they definitely earned it. And again, being the fastest bike is probably most likely why you want to use it. And it looks pretty cool. I mean, you can choose the color and it does glow. Big shout out to Andrew Padgett for joining in tonight. I didn't see Andrew racing, but it's good to see he's tuned in. And Cam Roberts is just saying that J. Riley Fleming, I'm not quite sure, is not GPM.
Yep.
Okay. So he's just clarifying that.
You're corrected. I thought he was a GPM rider. That was my mistake. The only thing I'd say about the Tron bike, Wes, is there's still a couple of us on Zwift that are purists, and I like the natural bicycle. So even if I had the choice, regardless of the advantage of going to the Tron, maybe in a training. Yeah, maybe. No, you're probably right. I need every advantage I can get now.
I know.
But I'm surprised. I'm surprised Cam Roberts can write a message on the stream, because at the moment he's pumping out 6.2 watts per kilo. They're now closing in. They've almost got B grade under a minute. So haven't even completed a lap of the course, a lap of the course being 8.7 kilometres around the Innisbrook Ring, and almost catching B grade. So there was messages coming through already from the group saying, aren't we going a bit hard too early? But you know what, after what we saw on Tuesday night, the way that the E-Crit was raced around this circuit, I don't think anything's out of reach for this group, and still they remain pretty solid group. I think there has been a few drop off. We're down to only 11 riders in this A group bunch now.
Yeah, and I'm just getting also feed from Tony just saying he's down to the dirty dozen now. So he's got 12 riders left in the D grade group. So it's certainly going to be pretty hard for the charging groups behind with only 12 left. And C grade, I think, had a fair number as well, a lot more than 12. So if we can, maybe we'll cross over to C grade soon, have a look at them. But Pete Donoghue has gone the old hashtag Tron for life, and Cameron Roberts is saying downhill to my advantage. So yeah, Cam Roberts is a very fine Zwifter, and unlucky not to win the championships. Was edged out by a rider that you coach, Pat, Nick White, on the day. But Cam Roberts, certainly a very strong racer on Zwift and very well known within the community now. Also, a shout out to Ian Vinton, Mr. V-Town, joining in from Zwift HQ, I'm imagining, in London. So thanks for joining us, Ian. And also, to add to this, I wanted to ask you, Pat, for the preparation leading into Nick White's win for the Australian Zwift Championships, I want to know. I gave Ben, my Ben from Wolfpack Taz, I gave him a little bit of a light lead in. Did you do the same for Nick, or was it all business and then a bit of play on the weekend?
Well, it was business up until the Thursday, should I say. Then the Friday and Saturday, I did back him back. For those unaware, Nick's also doing very well in the National Road Series domestically. He sits in third overall now after finishing on the podium GC in the last two rounds of the National Road Series. So his form's good not only on Zwift, but it's also carrying over to the National Road Series, which is what we expect. We've seen it in the past. Mostly riders, if they can go well on Zwift, they can transfer that across to reality as well. But it's just how you tweak it, Wes. We're lucky we've got experience where we understand how much you can back it off, and when backing it off too much is also a possibility. But yeah, I did give him a lighter run in for the Nationals, and I also gave Liam, his brother, a bit of a lighter run just the 4 days leading into it, because I believe both of them had a really good opportunity. But I also think that Zwift, it's so big now that you're silly not to be involved, particularly at their level, because there's such great exposure for them as athletes, but also there's great opportunities there for them as well. I mean, Nick is a prime example. He came to Zwift to do the Zwift Academy last year. He made the final three and went to the training camp with Dimension Data. He was not the winner. Ollie Jones took it out, but it didn't ruin Nick's his drive as such to try and become a professional cyclist. So he's pushed on again. He's doing the Zwift Academy again this year. And we should see him in the chop in the coming weeks, and also the E-Crit, because we're going to put that Australian Champions jersey on display.
Beautiful. That sounds like a great idea. And certainly I did also give my rider, because there was a little in-house coaches cup going on between me and Pat. Coach Pat got me this time, but it was a good bit of fun. I did give my rider, Ben Van Dam, a little bit of a lighter lead in as well. But no, it certainly was a great event, and it's great to see some of the community that cross over as well, Pat. You know, that are doing these events, and some that aren't just coming in for a one-time show. This is part of the community, and certainly a race like this as well gives the opportunity for likes of Tony Bagshaw to race along. Cameron, besides Cameron Roberts and those guys, and actually take them on and have a challenge of actually winning the race. So we can see that A grade are about 5 minutes behind now. So behind
they're
Tony
on.
Bagshaw.
A grade are on. A grade are on tonight, Wes. I'm telling you, they are on. They don't have a lot of riders. They've only got 10 riders left in their group, but they are on. This is probably the strongest performance I've seen from them in the chop. It's whether they can maintain it for the further 16 kilometres remaining for them, but to be within 5 minutes of D grade, should I say, and they're within 30 seconds of B grade, so they're really closing in on B grade. So B grade will still have legs to help them out as well. It'll be interesting to see. It's you are completely correct about offering this ability for riders to cross over virtual and real cycling as well. But the other ones that I really think have the ability to really benefit from this type of racing is that younger generation. So last week we saw in C grade a couple of under 17 riders from Tasmania taking part. This week in B grade, I think I saw Blake Agnoletto, a young rider who is very good on the track. He's also trying his hand out there tonight. And I think we're going to see more and more of that generation really take the Zwift because, there's that gaming aspect of it, but there's also that fitness side of it too. And I really see that as a growing area, and particularly for the preparation for national championships, etc. I definitely use it for my junior athletes. In fact, one of my athletes will be travelling to the national under-17 championships in the coming weeks, and he's due to go up to under-19s as of January. So he's using Zwift a lot for his preparation.
That's perfect. Yeah, exactly. Like using this, also having the Zwift Academy. I mean, we had over, 12,000 people sign up to Zwift Academy last year. I think it's well over 30,000 people sign up this year.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's certainly a great stepping stone and platform for young talent to, use as a stepping stone, like the likes of Ollie Jones' Zwift Academy, when I'd be riding in his garage a video game that his dad encouraged him to play. So that's pretty ironic when you think of that. Most fathers or parents usually don't encourage your son or daughter to sit and play a video game, but you're not sitting and playing this video game. You're using your real life effort to power these avatars and these bikes that are zooming up this hill. It's not a remote controller. There's no PlayStation part of this. It's purely raw effort and raw talent, which is the exciting thing here, Pat, that it can be such a great platform for raw talent to, and crossover from other sports as well. The sports of, like we see Cameron Worth come across from rowing, to likes of cycling. There's lots of sport that huge engine and lung capacity, and then transferring over to cycling. So it's something that, using Zwift as a platform, you don't have to, obviously, you have to learn a few of the skills along the way, how to race on Zwift. But in terms of racing your bike and bike handling, that part is going to have to come later on if you crossed over from a sport. But you will discover raw talents that are hidden gems, I guess you'd call it, Pat.
Yeah, 100%. That it has that offer, and like we talk about the Zwift community, as A grade get onto the leg snapper, whereas they've got 11 riders still in their group, and they're really on a mission. And I think they're going to catch B grade by the top of the leg snapper. They've got them in sight. Another aspect that I really love and passionate about Zwift is how many of my customers locally have gone onto Zwift in the past 12 months. And since they started to now, have lost a significant amount of weight as well. So rather than having that situation where they've purchased a bike or a gym equipment and it hasn't worked out, it's just got cobwebs on it, or it's hanging in the garage, they're using the product, they're out there riding, they're using Zwift because if it's raining outside or poor weather, rather than doing nothing at all, they're getting on the bike, they're exercising, and that's leading to a healthier lifestyle as well. And I think that's probably what really attracts me to Zwift as not only as a program, but also as a health and fitness perspective, because these customers that are getting fitter are certainly a lot happier as well. And with that, they're obviously reached big rewards. We've seen the junction made, whereas A and B grade are almost completely combined now, but only 9 riders from A grade will make that junction. So what can B grade help? Are they even interested in helping? We wait and see, but how are your C graders and D graders going?
Well, it looks like Tony's down to a nine riders, I think, if I'm not mistaken. If I can zoom out there, it looks like 9 riders that Tony's got left there. So the numbers have dropped down a bit. He did have, I think it was 12 riders earlier there, he said. But yeah, a few have tailed off now. Obviously, the pace hasn't been let up, and I'm sure Tony's been instructing his riders to make sure that they start to think about using those power-ups and start to make sure they hold that gap here, because now with A and B obviously together, that's going to be hard to hold that force back, definitely.
Well, it's a big B grade group, Wes. There's not all that many. Cam Roberts, he's actually gone into the B graders and out the other side. He's not waiting up. It's only a minute up to the C graders, about a minute to a minute and a half, because the C graders are in a couple of groups as well. But this is a big move. It's a gutsy move, and it's a risky move, because if they run out of lungs and run out of legs, they may not even catch the D graders or the C graders. But certainly looks like the A graders tonight, they've come to the chop. On a Thursday night, they've turned up with a mission on the hands. And I think the blood might have been a bit boiling the last 7 days after last week's performance. So come out to prove a point. And at the moment, there's just Cam Roberts, Stephen Richards, and 2 of the B-grade riders, Martina and Harvey. They're out in front. And then the rest of the group starting to use power-ups to hold the wheel as Cam Roberts continues to push 5-6 watts per kilo, and he is on a mission.
Yeah, and it looks like C-grade aren't too far behind Tony's group now. So C-grade are closing in pretty quickly on D-grade as well. So they're going to have to keep the pace on here now. It looks like Tony's instructing his riders to make sure that they do sort of work together here. They were starting to get a little bit scattered there from that urgency to make sure that they press on with it. But it looks like Tony's leading them through here now, sort of guiding them through. And again, Pat, it does come back down to keeping that smoothness. They know each time they go up and over that climb that obviously it's going to hurt people's legs. It's going to, it's going to cause that grind, which we saw earlier with the cadence slipping right down. But at the end of it, they need to make sure that they push it at that highest level they can with that intensity, that threshold level, but not sort of spike the watts, that extra kick into the sort of that almost like a sprint. Some people attack it like a sprint, the climb. That does not help for cohesion to work together in this sort of instance. And so you've really got to, like I said, we saw that happen, Pat. You've really got to grind it out to keep it smooth on this sort of terrain, that climb, the style that the climb is, and the way that the group has to work together. It's a bit up there.
Yeah, you certainly do. Tonight, Wes, I think we're going to see a catch very early, and we've seen it before in handicap racing. Depending on the day, if everything clicks right, a group can really make a mess of the field. And, well, that group tonight is the A-graders. But there's only 5 A-graders, maybe 6, that have been able to hang on to that pace. I was having a look at Zach Johnson. His heart rate now starting to get back down to about 170, but he has not been the active rider that he normally is. He's had to sit in the wheels a bit, try and survive, sit that power down towards that 4 watts per kilo, 3 watts per kilo to try and drop his heart rate, because for a long time there he was sitting at about 185. We only saw him hit around 190 on Tuesday night when he won solo in the E-Crit. So it just shows you just how hard the A-graders have gone. Starting with 21 riders, there's just 6 of them in this group, and then the remainder of the group is B-grade, and there is a C-grader, McCracken. A big shout-out to C. McCracken, because he's hanging on from America, and that's a big effort for the C-grader, but they're closing in on C-grade very quickly. It's under a minute now to C-grade, Wes.
Under a minute. D-grade here. Looks like they still had 9 riders left. So Tony's still leading that 9-man through now. And they look like they're working quite smoothly. A little bit more cooperation happening there now. Also getting some instructions just before as well from Tony Bagshaw to his troops. But it looks like they're working nicely together here also. And M Savage is up there as well. So a few name shout-outs. I'm not sure as well. Some of these names look like they are new. I haven't seen Blackman in this group before, not to my knowledge. So great to see some new names and new faces in amongst here with Tony. But it's certainly Zach Johnson is going to be the man to beat, I think, up here. against obviously Cam Roberts when this all comes together, because Pat, I can't see him holding him off at this stage. Unfortunately, Tony, I'm backing you all the way, but I think I know what's coming.
No, you're not. It's reasonable not to, Wes. I mean, I think we saw about 2 minutes 40 from the A graders to the D graders, and we saw a message come through from Kim Little showing that they're very motivated. Kim Little put a message up: we're due to catch D grade on the finish line. Let's remember, at the moment, 7.5 kilometres remains for A grade. Putting into perspective, that's about 6 kilometres to go, 5 3/4 kilometres to go for the D graders. But C grade catch is probably not that far off either, as they continue to push around the 3 watts per kilo. This A/B grade group is pushing more towards the 5 and 6 watts per kilo, so almost double the power in watts per kilo. So it's very reasonable to suggest that the catch will be on tonight. I'm not completely certain that an A grader will win though, Wes, because B grade's now getting the free ride. I think they probably didn't ride as hard as what they did last week, so they got a little bit in the tank. And as I mentioned, there's a couple of little sneaky riders in B grade tonight. Blake Anguletto, he's got a quick sprint on him, so if he could get to the finish, I reckon he could get over the top of both Roberts and also your man Johnson from Tasmania. But we've seen it before when A grade got up once before. M. Pepper took out the win. So it's going to be interesting as D grade now on the leg snapper, are they, Wes?
Yes, they are. They're about to come up on it there now. So D grade here are being led by Tony, and Tony is making sure that they are working well together, which looks like they are. And Tony is rocking the aero bike by the looks of it as well tonight. So the Zwift aero bike. So looks like they're all working here nicely. Tony's heart rate has definitely increased now. We're getting to the point in this race. He was sitting around the 140 to 150. Now he's up around almost the 170 heart rate here now. So he's certainly working hard. I'm sure the rest of his troops are here as well. He's sitting at that nice 85 sort of cadence there now, trying to keep it smooth before they go up this little bit of a kick here. And that is certainly going to hurt these riders now, because they're riding, especially Tony's heart rate is showing that now. As they turn around and go up this start of this climb, this is really going to be where it's going to hurt these riders. With only 9 of them left, they're going to have to work really hard. With Kim Little doing a lot of work here tonight, Pat. I don't know if you've noticed, but each time I've crossed over to that group, he's been the main driver on the front here.
Well, Kim, we've spoken, Jesper and I speak about him quite often in the E-Crit as well. He doesn't sit around and just roll the legs over. He's always contributing. He's always aggressive, and this style of racing is what suits him. I think he'll really like his chances tonight, because there's a minimal amount of A-graders left, and that's not to say that he could win with all of the A-graders there, but certainly doesn't normally take it out in a sprint, so he'll have to try something different tonight. They're just 20 seconds behind C grade now, Wes, and this A and B combined group can now see the C graders in their sights, and then that leaves just the D graders ahead. And I think it's under a minute from the C graders to the D, or just 2 minutes from C to D. So we've got about 2.5 minutes is the gap from back to front at the moment of the entire race.
So it all is going to be probably all Grupo Compacto, as they would say, shortly. But for now, it looked like Tony was leading up that climb, now crossing back over to the rest of the group here now, coming up from behind. I'm assuming this is the start of the C grade here now, about to probably come up to the likes of this climb here now, and most likely going to get probably caught on the hill. Tony looks like he's being distanced a little bit from the rest of his troops here. He's in the middle with some riders just behind him and a couple in front. So they're doing their very best on this climb to try and make sure they can get over the other side and quickly gather everyone together and then make a nice bit of a move towards the finish, because they really don't want to get caught on this climb. Obviously, it's going to be very to stay with the rest of the A graders, but nevertheless, they will try. And I know a couple of times we've seen some of the other riders from D grade try and jump in and stay actually with the A graders almost to the finish as well, Pat.
Yes, well, Wes, I think your D graders might have a chance if they can they're really going to have to dig deep, but they're over the top of the leg snapper. C grade just making their way up, and they're even lining each other out. Stretton, who was very strong last week, I think he finished in the top 5 from the Wolfpack Tasmania, just under 17. He's now pushing the pace up the climb as well, and they can see an opportunity here as well. It's go for it now or be caught from the A and B. As they start to absorb the C graders on the leg snapper, it is just in front. The 2 C graders I mentioned, which was from last week, Stretton, and also, oh no, he's now being absorbed. It's Riley and Roberts. They make the catch now. So it's A grade chasing D grade, but it's still a minute and a half. The gap out to the front. It's Tony Bagshaw from your group, Boeto and Savage that lead the way up front. I think your D graders have a really good chance here, Wes.
Well, we're nearly at we're 24.3 and it's a 27-kilometer race. So I've actually maybe called it a bit early here, Pat, because they have got over the other side of this climb now, that leg snapper. I mean, they don't have a great amount of numbers here. It looks like they've only got 4 or 5 riders left here now, but they are pushing with everything they've got left here now. So Tony Bagshaw has managed to rally his half of his troops now being cutting half of that climb. Looks like one rider's out in front here as well. That is Miller, I think, out in front as well. So these riders now are going to be absolutely laying everything online. Tony is obviously, I think all of these riders have already used all their power-ups as well, Pat, because they were instructed to make sure they don't save them, because they need to make sure that they absolutely have every bit of time advantage they can, not just in the last finish straight, but so they move faster as a unit as a whole. So great to see. This is going to be down to the wire here now, Pat. This is actually going to be one of these very close races, which we've seen a number of times now on the other courses, but never we've seen such a close race. We're going to come into probably the last kilometre, I think, is where it could unfold. So now we see Tony using the aero power up here to try and distance himself back up towards the front here now. He's towards the back of his group. I think everyone is on their limit here. Tony's up around that 180 heart rate now. So this is really getting interesting now, Pat. They are going to push all the way to the line. And I'm not sure how much too far behind we are. I'm trying to click back through here to see where A grade
Well, you're at
now.
1,500.
It looks like
the D
minute
grade is at 1,500 to go. Well, they might. 1,500 metres to go, Wes, for your group, and it's at 2 kilometres, so it's 500 metres. They need to push. Kim Little's put the message through. He said, we're 20 seconds short, guys. We're going to have to do something special. 350 watts, that's equivalent to 6 watts per kilo. Now 7. Now they're starting to boom. Kim Little and also Cam Roberts, they're sacrificing themselves for the group. They've popped their aero power-ups. There's guys using their drafting boost as well. And the gap now, 25.8 Ks covered. Oh, it's 500 metres. 400 metres is the gap. This could be a big sprint from the A-B group. They catch on the line. It's down to about 30 seconds is the gap with a kilometre to go for your D graders, Wes.
Oh, this is getting interesting now. Pony's already used his power-ups. I know that any of the other riders here, looks like someone's using a drafting boost. Obviously not to the effect, but he's actually getting in behind one of his companions there, so that will have some effect. But these riders are going tooth and nail towards this finish line. Will D-Grade be able to hold on? We will find out shortly, but it looks like D-Grade is really splitting up here now, and also we're following the likes of A, B, and C-Grade also in amongst this group here. We see Riley up the front here. So Riley, and also we see, and now actually we're crossing over to Bedetto over in the front group. He has gone for the gun here, 800 watts, and he's giving it absolutely everything towards this finish line. He wants it to come up before he's caught. He's in the orange numbers and he's holding on. So that is a mighty fine sprint. Actually just hit 1,000 watts there as well, and down into that 70 cadence range. But there is no heart rate monitor connected to that, but looks like he's going to take the win here for D-Grade. So D-Grade has taken a win. So we'll cross back over to C come through for the minor placings here.
Savage is up there as well, Wes, and Cam Roberts looks like he's leading home the A-graders. He certainly is, but it's all too little too late for the A-graders tonight, Wes. Unfortunately, the job couldn't get done for the A-graders, and I think that they will be licking wounds after this one. D grade, they really stole that one. And as I said, over the top of the climb, D grade, they just looked like the gap was too much. Kim Little
It did,
and Cam Roberts.
The way that Tony rallied that group back together, because it did look all broken up. I would have put money on that D grade were finished because of the way it was scattered over the top of that climb. But to Tony, all hats off to you for getting that group back together and getting everyone working together. So great win by D grade tonight. I'm sure that we'll see lots of banter on the Facebook group on Zwift Oz about this as well, and on the Facebook group, The Chop. But if you enjoyed this stream, then make sure you tune in on Tuesday night. We'll have the eCrit Zwift race also. The KISS eCrit race will be on Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. And also, obviously, the Chop, which you've just been watching, which is a great inclusive race for everyone to take part. And we got a D grade win tonight. So no matter your ability, you can have a crack against the A graders in this style of race. So well done to everyone taking part tonight. Thanks to Pat for joining me as well. And we'll see you next time on The Chop.